Hi, welcome to my tutorial. I'm going to demonstrate how to make an open fantasy peony and how to make the pretty ruffle on the bottom tier of the cake using a simple circle cutter. Here is a list of the equipment I used to make the peony. We start by making the centre of your bud. Cut your 26 gauge wire into 3. Make a hook on the end of each of them. Make 3 teardrop shaped buds with your white flour paste. Place the hooked end of the florist wire into the teardrop shaped bud at the larger end and secure. Pinch a small piece of the flour paste with your fingers from the side, but not all the way up to the top. Repeat this process for all 3 buds. Put all 3 buds together. It's important that the tips are sitting towards the outside and the pieces that we pinched are also on the outside. Secure the buds together with florist tape. Stretching the florist tape and twisting the stem as you go. It's important to stretch the florist tape as this releases the glue. Now it's time to make the stamens. Take 7 28 gauge wires and cut them into 6. Bend the top of each wire. Then hook it over and then hook it over again. We're going to sparkle our stamens because it's a decorative flower. If you wanted it to look more realistic, then you could use a yellow dust. Dip the hooked end of the wire into your water, then into your Tylo powder, into your water again, and then into your sparkle. Repeat this process for each and every stamen. To prevent the glitter from falling off the stamens, we're going to use a Peony glaze spray. Hold the bunch together and spray lightly over the stamens. The peony centre has had a little time to dry off. Place a dry paintbrush into the pearl white lustre dust and apply it gently to the centre to give it a lovely pearl finish. Place the stamens around your centre. Make sure they're level with the top of the centre. This can be tricky and requires a little patience. Once you've added almost half of them, use some of your florist tape to hold them in place. To prevent the tape from looking bulky, we cut the half width tape in half again, making it 1/4 of a width. This keeps it nice and neat and not bulky around the base of your centre. Continue to add the stamens. I've cut the wires at different lengths. We call this staggering. This prevents us from having a bulky stem. Your peony centre should now look like this. It's now time to make the petals for the peony. Cut 7 of your 26 gauge wires into 3. Put a small piece of florist paste on your florist wire. Twist it backwards and forwards between your fingers. You will develop your own method. The flour paste needs to go up the wire. It needs to be the length of your smallest petal. Repeat this 5 times. Place the wires we've covered in paste in your document wallet. We need to keep them nice and moist. Roll out your white flour paste. You don't need them to be too thin because peony petals are quite fleshy. Cut out 5 petals and place them in your document wallet. Place one of the petals on your work mat. Brush a thin line of water or edible glue from top to bottom. Then stick the wire on the back of the petal. Turn the petal over so you're looking at the front and using your gem veiner, vein your petal going across from the centre out to the edge. Place the petal upside down on the cell pad and using the large end of the ball tool, half on the cell pad and half on the petal, roll the ball tool around the edge of the petal. You will notice your petals starting to frill on the edges. We want a small amount of frilling. Do not apply too much pressure. Hold the petal in your hand and using your thumb cup the petal to make a shape, just like the photograph. Then bend the wire at the bottom of the flower. To help the petals keep their shape, I'm placing them in a fruit or vegetable tray. We're using this as our former. Repeat this process again for the second layer and the third layer. The second layer requires 7 petals with the medium-sized cutter, and the third and final layer requires 9 petals with the largest cutter. Spray each of the petals with PME lustre spray to give your petals a pretty silky appearance. Once the petals have dried off a little, it's time to dust the bottom of the petals. I've mixed together a dusty rose and a pearl white on a small piece of foil, then using a dry flat edge paintbrush, lightly dust the pale pink onto the petals. When dusting your petals, you should always dust from the outer edges to the centre. I have only applied the dust to the bottom half of the petals. Apply some pink dust to the tips of the peony centres too. It's now time to start to assemble your peony, starting with the 5 smallest petals first. Place the petals around the centre one at a time, and using the floral tape cut into quarter strips, start to tape the petals in place. Remember to stretch the tape, releasing the glue as you go. Make sure the first row of petals sit at the base of the stamens. Now add the second row of petals, the medium-sized one. When you add them to your peony, you place the petal in between the row before. See the photograph. Take the petals in place as you go. Add the third layer of petals, again placing them on the outer edge of the second row of petals and sitting in between the petals again. To prevent our peony stem being very bulky, we cut the wires at different lengths. Then continue to tape them together all the way down the stem. We are almost finished. The final step is to steam your flower. Boil a small amount of water in a saucepan and wave your flour over the steam. We do this to blend and set the dust. Be really careful not to burn your hand. Your peony is now complete. Want to know how I made the ruffles on the bottom tier of the cake? Roll your paste out nice and thin. To make the ruffles, I've used a 4 cm round circle cutter. The modelling paste has been rolled out. I turn it over, place the cutter on top, apply pressure all the way around the cutter, and then I move it around my mat to make sure that I'm getting a nice sharp cut. I'm going to cut out another one now. As you can see down the side of my mat, I've already prepared some in advance. Place the circles you've cut out on a foam pad, and using a ball tool, we want to find the edges. Go all the way round the circle. You can apply some pressure. It's quite nice if you get a little frill. And just keep going all the way round. You need to do this for every circle that you cut out. This can be very time consuming, but I do think that ruffles look absolutely beautiful on a cake. It is good to make a number of these in advance. That way the paste gets a little time to firm up. It makes it easier to work with, and the ruffles hold their shape when you attach them to the cake. I'm going to demonstrate attaching the ruffles on this dummy cake. So you have to imagine that it's already ganached and covered in fondant. As you can see, the paste has firmed nicely. It's not too dry because that would make it crack. I fold it in half, and then I twist it, and then I pinch the bottom. And here you can see you have a very pretty ruffle. The edges are nice and fine. If they're not fine, they will look thick and clumpy. I use water in my water pen, or you can attach with edible glue. Place the ruffle on the side of your cake. I use the end of a paintbrush or the small end of the ball tool just to attach it to the cake. And then you move on to the next one. Exactly the same process. And you continue to do this all the way round. Attaching again next to the one before. You can use your end of a paintbrush or your small ball tool just to give them a little tweak. You don't want them collapsing onto each other. We're just going to attach another one. This may feel a little bit fiddly at first, but you will quickly get the hang of it. And as I said before, a ruffle effect on the tier of a cake does look very, very pretty, especially on a wedding cake or any celebration cake. I'm going to show you the ruffle technique again, but this time in slow motion. If I was a little fast for you before, you should be able to see this better. You just continue to keep adding ruffles as you go. Keep making a number of them in advance and keep attaching them to your cake, approximately 10 to 15 of them at a time. I would normally go the whole way around the bottom of my cake, and then I would start to apply the second layer in between. You don't want them to look like they're in rows. If the bottom layer starts to collapse, this means that the ruffles aren't dry enough yet, so give it a little while before applying the next layer. To attach your peony to the cake, you can cut all the stems very, very short and attach it with royal icing, or you can place the stems in a flower pick. My cake has ombre ruffles. This is a very simple and pretty effect. Start with darker ruffles at the bottom and continue to lighten it as you move up the cake. I think peony cakes are very pretty. Here's some examples of other peony cakes I have made. The gold one was for Christmas, and this was for a friend's birthday cake. I also think that peonies look stunning on a wedding cake. If you enjoyed my tutorial, please hit the thumbs up button. If you'd like to be kept up to date with my other tutorials, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.